Bye. How are you?
Good morning, Yaron. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Rabbi. How's everything?
Great, Yaron. You're in Paris, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great to see you, Yaron.
Nice to
The
see you,
crowd
Rabbi.
is
Happy
good morning.
to be back
Great. So
on
good to
Zoom,
see
at
you.
least for now.
Morning, Adam. What did you say, Yaron?
I say for now on Zoom. I'm happy.
You too, Adam. Yaron, the Gemara is on Yud Dalet Amud Aleph. We have 14a.
No, I open right now.
Yud Dalet Amud Aleph. The Gemara was talking about a machloket regarding certain boards. Can you use boards, wooden flat boards for your schach? So the Mishnah stated, the Rameh says you cannot use wooden flat boards for your schach. And the Gemara is going to discuss what's the size of these boards that's a problem. And Rabbi Yehuda says you could use wooden boards as your schach.
Rabbi,
That's
you
the
Dalet?
Yud Dalet Amud Aleph, 14a.
Okay.
Morning, Adam. Great to see you. So we have the question of our Mishnah was, wooden boards are not makabel if they're flat boards that don't hold something. It's not like a container that you're able to put something in to store something in. It's not makabel tumah. That's called pshute kliyet. It's not makabel tumah. So technically, it fits the criteria of schach that's kosher schach. It grew from the ground, separated from the ground. It's not susceptible to contamination. So technically, it is kosher schach. However, the issue in the Mishnah is if you allow a person to use boards for schach, maybe he's going to make a mistake. The question is, are we concerned that he's going to think that he could use the boards of his house, his ceiling of his house, which are also made from boards? You hear the issue, Adam? Are we concerned that if you allow him to sit in a sukkah made from boards, he's going to go ahead and use his house as a ceiling? In a house, your boards of your house are made
But they
not for
attach
sukkah
at the house,
purposes.
Rabbi.
Are made for a house. And a sukkot, you can't fulfill your obligation of going into a domain, going into a covering that was not made for sukkah. It was made for a house. You have to leave your house for sukkot, correct? So even though maybe you might have boards on your ceiling of your house that are technically kosher schach, that are technically kosher schach, but it's not kosher for you to sit in that sukkah because it wasn't made for a sukkah. It's made for a house. So now,
Rabbi is attached to the house.
So
it's connected
I'm
to
saying,
the house.
I'm saying your house, right? Yes. Your house, you cannot sit in your house. Let's say you have boards as your ceiling. You have 4 walls, so you technically 3 walls is enough. You have proper walls. They're high at 10 tefachim, and now you have your ceiling of your house, and it's a board. It's a flat board. So the question is, can you fulfill your mitzvah of Sukkah by sitting? But you can't fulfill your mitzvah. You're in your house. You are in the cover of your house, and it's not a kosher sukkah, even though technically the materials that are covering your head are kosher materials, but it's not a kosher. It's not a sukkah, and therefore you're not able to fill your obligation, right, Adam? So now the question is, if you're going to use boards of a certain size, that will go ahead and perhaps is there a concern that if you use boards as your sukkah, you left your house, you created this structure for the purpose of sukkah again, and we're not talking about the walls, we're talking about the ceiling, and you made these boards on your ceiling. Is that going to invalidate this sukkah or not? So the Gemara brought 2 opinions in the Amoraim of understanding what is the case of the Mishnah. What is the case? There is a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Rameh. Rameh is more strict, says you cannot use these boards for Sukkah, for your schach, and Rabbi Yehuda says you can use these boards. So Rav says that the case of the Mishnah is when the boards are 4 tefachim wide. Let's say they're 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. And Rameh is concerned, those are the same size boards that you use in the ceiling of your house. And since that's the standard size ceiling boards, so therefore, if you allow a person to sit under such a board for their sukkah, even though they made it for a sukkah ceiling, but then they'll say that's the same type of board that I use in my house, and they'll come to sit in their house for sukkah. And therefore, Rameh says it's no good. And Rabbi Yehuda says, no problem. Yehuda says, no, people know this is a sukkah. You put it up for the purpose of sukkah. No one's going to think, let's say, that you could sit in the ceiling of the boards of your house. However, if the boards are not 4 tefachim, if they're less than 4 tefachim wide, Rav Meir would not make any gzeirah, because since the standard board of a house is 4 tefachim wide, so if it's less than 4 tefachim, and the Gemara explained if it's less than 4 tefachim, let's say between 3 and 4 tefachim, or if for sure less than 3 tefachim, there's no problem. Everybody would agree that if it's less than 4 tefachim. So again, the first opinion of Rav has a more lenient understanding of the Mishnah, that the argument is only on a 4 tefach board. A 3 tefach board, there's no problem. 3 tefach board for your sukkah, for your ceiling of your sukkah, no problem. However, comes Shmuel, and Shmuel says, no. They're not arguing on a 4 tefach board. A 4 tefach board resembles the standard board of a house. And everybody would agree, if it's a 4 tefach ceiling board, to use a 4 tefach wide board, it will be a problem. The case of the Mishnah is when you use a board between 3 tefach and 4 tefach, since there are a minority of homes that use a smaller board for their ceiling. So are you afraid of the minority, of the mute? And that's what Rameh holds. Rameh is even concerned for the minority boards. But if it's a 4 tefach board, everybody would agree, Shmuel says, that there's a problem because it mirrors the board of someone's house. That's what we said yesterday, is the machloket. So it comes out that between Rav and Shmuel, good morning, Dr. Rosen, between Rav and Shmuel, there is a dispute if a board 3 to 4 tefachim wide, would everybody agree that board is good or not? And that will be one level of the difference. And the other level of difference is, based on that, if you have a board that's 4 tefachim wide, if you have a ceiling, if you use schach with a board, a covering for your sukkah that's 4 tefachim wide, would Rabbi Yehuda agree that it's a problem, or would Rabbi Yehuda say no, there is no problem? So that's the difference between the understanding of Rav and Shmuel. So the Gemara says the following: Tanan, we are now on, with that background, we are now on 14a, 14.8.4 on the bottom, first column, the bottom of the page. Tanan, Natan aleha neseh shurachav abon tfachim. This is a quote from the Mishnah. The Gemara is quoting. If you place the board, Dr. Rosa, we are on 14a, 4, first column, bottom of the page. Natan, this is going to be, he wants to prove that Shmuel's opinion. Again, Shmuel's opinion is that if it's, the argument is when it's less than 4 tefachim, between 3 and 4, but if it's 4 tefachim, everybody would hold its pasul. So Natan aleha neter. Good morning, Max. Natan aleha neseh shurachav arbot tefachim. You place the board that's 4 tefachim wide on top of the sukkah, meaning you had other boards on top of the sukkah, yet other schach on top of the boards, other smaller sizes than that. It says over here that if you place the board 4 tefachim wide on top of the sukkah, kshera, the sukkah is nevertheless kosher. Ubavad shelo yishen tachta. We are on 14A4 on the first column bottom. But you can't sleep under that board. Now, when we say you can't sleep under that board, it's 4 tefachim wide. Let's say 4 tefachim is anywhere between 12 and 16-inch wide board. If by 16, 12 to 16 inches by 12 to 16 inches, we say you can't sleep under that board. And why can't you sleep under that board? Because that board is not kosher. It's not kosher schach, and not kosher schach, and it's a not kosher schach the size of 4 tefachim. He says you can't sleep under it, but not only you can't sleep under it, you can't eat under it, you can't do anything to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah. You can't fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah at all. So that spot underneath that board, 4 tefachim wide board, is not kosher area for you to sit in the sukkah. But the sukkah, if you have the sukkah, is still kosher sukkah. You can have a spot in the sukkah that might be not kosher schach, and even if it's a significant size. Good morning, Mr. Silverman. Because there are certain halachot that says if it's not a significant size, if it's a small size, let's say less than 3 tefachim of not kosher schach, let's say you could technically sit under. And really, based on the Gemara, many say even less than 4, as long as it's less than 4 tefachim. But we don't sit if it's less than 3 tefachim, at least Ashkenazim. But here, we have a quote from the Mishnah that the Mishnah, we are on 14A4, that the Mishnah says if you have a board that's 4 tefachim wide, it's not kosher schach. It's not. There's a problem with this board. Now, according to Rav's explanation, Rav said that Rabbi Yehuda has no problem with a 4 tefach board ceiling. If you make a board for your schach at 4 tefach, Rav's understanding was we don't make a gzeira of tikra. We don't say that if you use a 4 tefach board for your ceiling of your sukkah, you're going to come to sit in your house and think you could use your house ceiling as a sukkah. People are not going to, he's not concerned that you're going to interchange your sukkah for your house and say, you know what, look, the size of the boards of the ceiling of my house are 4 tefachim. The size of the board of the ceiling of the sukkah is 4 tefachim. If I could sit in a 4 tefach wide board, a 15-inch board, a 12 to 16-inch board in my sukkah, I can sit in my house also. It's the same board. The answer is no. According to this opinion, according to Rav's understanding, that's exactly the machloket. That's the argument between the two opinions in the Mishnah. That one opinion in the Mishnah says it's a problem. A mayor says we are afraid you can interchange. Rabbi Yehuda says it's no problem. But the question is the sefer of the Mishnah. The end of our Mishnah seems to indicate that there is a problem with a 4 tefach board. Because the Mishnah stated, if you place the 4 tefach board on top of your sukkah, you can't sleep under that board. Why? Right? You got that, Max? Says you can't sleep under. Why can't sleep under the 4 tefach board? It seems to be that we are afraid that if you sleep under that, you're going to sleep in your house under the roof of your house that has a 4 tefach board. So that's what the Gemara says. Bishlam, that's going to be the Gemara's question. Bishlam is Shmuel. I can understand, according to Shmuel, the Amma, it says, B'she'ein ba'abor tefachim machloket. For Shmuel, that says that the argument is when the board of your sukkah, the ceiling of your sukkah board is less than 4 tefachim. That's where there's an argument. And the stricter opinion holds that even a board less than 4 tefachim, between 3 and 4 tefach board, what are you with that? That since a 3 and a 4 tefach board, a minority of people use a 3 to 4 tefach board. So therefore, we are afraid, by the way, if you want to send to the group that we're on, maybe a good reminder. You use it, since a minority of people, most homes in the United States, most homes over there use boards that are 4 tefach wide boards for ceiling of a house. But there's a minority of people that use a board that's 3 to 4 tefach, meaning less than a 4 tefach, a 3 tefach board. Let's say a 9 to 12 inch board for your ceiling. So are you afraid that if you use a 9 to 12-inch board for your sukkah, you're going to come to use that type of in your house, that 9 to 12-inch board of your house ceiling? Because there are some homes that use a 9 to 12-inch ceiling board, wide board, a 3 tefach board. So Rameh is concerned for the minority, and says you can't even use a 3 tefach board size board for your ceiling. And the Rabbi Yehuda is not worried about the minority. But if it's a 4 tefach board, everybody agrees that you can't use it. That's one explanation of the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Bishlam al-Shmuel, we are on 14a4 on the right side. Bishlam al-Shmuel the Amar b'she'ein ba'arba machloket. When it's not 4 tefach, when it's not 4 tefachim wide, there's an argument whether you can even use a board that's smaller than 4 tefachim, meaning a board that's between 3 and 4 tefach. If wide, if you can use it for your ceiling of your sukkah. But if there's 4 tefach board, divrei hakol, everybody agrees. Psula, then if it's a 4 tefach board wide on your sukkah, everyone will hold it's not kosher because they'll interchange your 4 tefach board, which is the standard board for a house. Therefore, the Mishnah says you cannot sleep underneath that part of the sukkah. Rav says that if you have a 4 tefach board, that you're using a flat wooden 4 tefach board for your sukkah, there's still an argument, and there's an opinion out there. There's an opinion of Rabbi Yehuda that says there's no concern that you can interchange the board of your sukkah ceiling board for your house board. The divrei hakol ksheira, and that opinion held if it's less than 4 tefachim, everybody holds it's kosher, and it's only an argument if it's 4 tefachim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, why shouldn't you sleep under that board? According to Rabbi Yehuda's understanding, according to Rav, you should be able to sleep under a 4 tefach board because Rabbi Yehuda has no problem. He doesn't make a gzeira called gzeira tikra, a gzeira that if you sleep under a 4 tefach board for your sukkah ceiling, you're going to come to sleep under your house. According to that opinion in the Gemara, according to Rav, that understands that Rabbi Yehuda does not make any gzeira, what's the problem with the Mishnah? Why is the Mishnah saying, don't sleep under that 4 tefach board? What's wrong? There's no problem. It's a 4 tefach board. It came from the ground. It's flat. It's not mekabel tuma. I'm not afraid. Rabbi Yehuda is not afraid that you can interchange the board of your sukkah, the ceiling for your board of your house. What's the problem? And Rashi points out that the Gemara is thinking that the Seifah of the Mishnah did not say it's a lone opinion, it's one opinion. It said stam. It says if you put a board that's 4 tefachim wide, the sukkah still remains kosher, doesn't ruin the whole sukkah. And the Gemara will explain why, but just don't sleep under that board. That means it is not kosher schach. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, everything is fine. It's not a problem. So the Mishnah did not say an argument in that case. So the Gemara answers back, Mi savrat, you thought, the whole question that you're asking is because you thought that the second clause of the Mishnah is according to all opinions. Therefore, you have a great question. If it's all opinions, it doesn't fit according to Rav's explanation of the machloket of Rabbi Yehuda Rameya. But Ella, but Seifa Tan Rameya, the Mishnah, the end statement of the Mishnah, when the Mishnah says if you have a board that's 4 tefachim wide, it's not considered kosher schach. There is a concern for such boards. That opinion is Rav Meir's opinion. But Rabbi Yehuda, Rav would say that Rabbi Yehuda would have no problem having such a board as your schach, because people will not make a mistake between a board of a sukkah ceiling and a board of your house. Is that clear, everybody? Hear what the Gemara's answer is? It's not according to everybody's opinion. Therefore, it's not a question on how you understood the Mishnah. Tashma. Now comes the new case. And the Gemara is trying again to bring a proof to Shmuel's understanding of the machloket of the Mishnah between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. Is that clear, Yehuda? We have Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. We have Rabbi Yehuda right over here. What is the machloket? Good morning. We are now on the end of the page, the last few words of the line on Yud Dalet Amud Aleph. We're about to turn the page. We'll get a mabruk on turning the page. We'll get a mazel tov. Tashma. Shnei Sadinim. You have two sheets. Now, a sheet is something that's Mekabel Tumah. A sheet is Mekabel Tumah, and therefore a sheet is considered not kosher schach. It's not a matter of discussion like the board of the Mishnah. What do you say? It's not a matter of discussion whether it's Mekabel Tumah or not. The board of our Mishnah is not Mekabel Tumah, right? The only question is it still kosher for schach or not? But here, it's for sure Mekabel Tumah. It's for sure invalid schach. Now, and you have these sheets, and these sheets are going across the whole. They're going across the whole sukkah. I have a picture in my Gemara, which I don't think you have in your Gemara. So if you look at this picture, you see here is schach kosher, and in the middle you have. I don't know if you could see. You see there are sheets that are going along the whole sukkah. So we have make believe if this would be a sukkah, if this room would be a sukkah, wall 1, wall 2, wall 3, wall 4. We got sheets running across the sukkah this way, okay? In the length of the sukkah, we got sheets. Now, but each sheet is not wide enough to invalidate the sukkah, because in order for something to invalidate the sukkah, you have to have not kosher schach. If you have 4 tfachim of not kosher schach running across the sukkah, 4 tfachim of not kosher schach would split the sukkah in half. And if we don't have 4 walls, if we only have 3 walls, that wall, and this wall, if you have 4 tfachim running across the sukkah, what you're left with is you're only left with, they're like 2 separate things, and you're left with half of this wall and that wall, and half of this wall and that wall. So each side has less than 3 walls. Is that clear? So therefore so now we have 2 sheets together, mitztarfin. They join together, and it will go ahead and invalidate the whole sukkah. If it only began with 3 walls, sukkah, with a 3-wall sukkah. Now we're turning the page. Shnei nitzarim. If you have 2, we're now on Yud Dalet Amud Beis, 14b. If you have Shnei Nitzarim, Ein Mitztarfin. 2 boards do not join together, and even if the whole sukkah is made from these boards, so that means you have a board, you have this board next to that board, and we say they don't join together. Rameya Omer, Rameya says, Nitzarim Kisadinim. Rameya says that the Nitzarim have the same status like the sheet. And now the Gemara is going to have to explain what is this, what does it mean that we're going to go ahead and we're going to join it together to invalidate the sukkah. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. Bishlama the Shmuel. According to Shmuel, the Amma, b'she'ein behem arba machloket. Shmuel says the argument, we are on Yud Dalet Amud Beis, on the top of the page. Shmuel says the argument when it's not 4 tfachim. If it's not 4 tfachim, that's where there's an argument when you have a 3 tefach board for your ceiling, whether 3 tefach board or not would be a problem because maybe you're going to interchange it with the thing of your house. But if it has 4 tfachim, everybody would hold that a 4 tefach board would be a problem. If you cover your ceiling of your sukkah with a 4 tefach board, everybody would say there's a problem because they interchange that for your house. So my mitztarfin, what does it mean mitztarfin? it means mitzarfin la'arba. It means it's going to join for 4 tfachim. So look at the Rashi. Bishlam of the Shmuel. You have the Rashi second line from the top. Bishlam of the Shmuel. Bishlam of the Shmuel. Nukma lahach plukta nami b'she'ein behen dalet. He'll also explain that the case is when the board is not 4 tfachim wide. It's not 4 tfachim wide, but v'kama Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda says, Shnei nitzarim shel shloshet tfachim. If you have 2 boards of 3 tfachim, af al gav din nafik mitoris lavud. Even though, a 3 tefach wide board is no longer the size of lavud. We said lavud means that if you have a space less than 3 tefachim, we look at it as insignificant, as if it's closed. But here you have a space of 3. The size of this board is 3 tefachim. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Ein mitzarfin leposla." Rabbi Yehuda says there's no problem here. You have all these 3 tefachim boards on your sukkah, on top of your sukkah. It's 100% kosher. There's no concern. Ba'af al gav, the nafik sha'af kulam misachim behem. Because even if a whole sukkah is made from boards that are 3 tefachim, there is no problem. Rameya says nisarim mitzarfin la'arba. Rameya holds that we join the boards together to invalidate the whole sukkah. In be'emsa sukkah hein leposla. If these boards are in the middle of the sukkah, they will join together to invalidate the whole sukkah. So let's take a look. Let's see what the Gemara says like this. El Rav, back in the Gemara. El Rav de Amar, Rav that says, B'sheyesh behen arba machloket. Rav says that if there's 4 tfachim, if the board is a 4 tfachim board, there's a machloket, right? Rav says that even when you have a 4 tfachim board wide, everybody holds there's a machloket. That Rabbi Yehuda holds there's no problem in a 4 tefach board. Aval ein behen arba divrei kol kashera. But if it's not 4 tfachim wide, then everybody holds that it's kosher. So the Gemara wants to know, heichi dami. Let's understand this case. Rav says, if you have a 4 tefach board, wide board, there's a machloket by a 4 tefach board, if it will be a problem to cover a sukkah with a 4 tefach board, right? Right. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you have a 4 tefach wide board, Rabbi Yehuda would say there's no problem to use a 4 tefach wide board. And Rabbi Yehuda would even say you could even sleep under that. Rabbi Yehuda holds. Rabbi Yehuda holds a 4 tefach board. There's no problem. Say that again. Yeah, but the Gemara said that Mishnah, the Gemara wanted to say that Mishnah that says you can't sleep under that board is according to Rameya's opinion, according to one understanding of the Gemara. Okay, one second. Let's see something over here. Okay. El Rav de Amash Yesh Ben Abor Machloket, Rav that says if you have a board that's 4 tfachim, it's a machloket. Aval ein behem harba, but if the board is not 4 tfachim, divrei hakol kashera. If it's not a 4 tfachim wide board, there's no problem. Hichi dami. What is the case of this machloket regarding the board? Right? What is the machloket? What's the case that Rameya said that the boards join together to invalidate the sukkah. What did Rameya say? Rameya says, let's try to understand this point over here. Rameya says that the boards are like the sheet. What's the law by the sheets? If you put the sheets together, they are considered, it's considered 4 tfachim. In order to go ahead and invalidate a sukkah, you need to have, let's say if you have 4 tfachim, if it's schach pasul, if you have schach that's pasul, that runs across a sukkah, right? If it's 4 tfachim of schach pasul, that will invalidate a sukkah. Correct? So if you say, let's go back a little bit. If you say, let's go back to the first point, if you don't mind. Shmuel said that if you have a board that's less than 4 tefachim, between 3 and 4 tefach board, Rameya says it's not kosher schach. Okay? If you say 3 and 4 is not kosher schach, the question is, what's the status between a board that's between 3 and 4 tefachim? Is that the question? According to Rameya, according to one Amorah, if it's between 3 and 4 tefach, it is considered not kosher. It's not kosher schach, according to Reb Meir. Let's understand. 3 and 4, Rameya says you can't make a sukkah of boards that are 3 and 4 tefachim. Why? Why not? Because there are a minority of houses that are 3 and 4 tefach boards. Rabbi Yehuda says no problem. You can make a ceiling between 3 and 4 tefach board, but a 4 tefach board, everybody holds it's no good. If that's the case, then I can explain the Mishnah. I can explain this right there. Rameya says boards could join together like sheets could join together. What do you mean that the boards could join together? To break a sukkah in half, you need a certain size of not kosher schach to break a sukkah in half. What's the size of not kosher schach? It needs to be 4 tefach not kosher schach. If you have 3 tefachim of not kosher schach running across the middle of a sukkah, it's not going to break the sukkah in half. What'd you say? But if you have 3 plus 3, then you have 6. Then it would cut the sukkah in half. So that's what the Gemara says. As long as they're within most probably 3 tefachim of each other. I'm saying if you would have 4 tefachim of not kosher schach running across the sukkah, it will break the sukkah in half. So that's the now. If you learn that way, the Gemara says. Now let's go back. Now let's go back to the second line from the top because I want to make it clear. When it's less than 4 tefachim, between 3 and 4, there's an argument of but if it has 4 tefachim, everybody holds it's pasul. To my mitzdarfin, what does it mean we join? We're talking about boards that are 3 tefach wide boards, and Rameya holds that since each board is not kosher schach, it could join with the next board and knock out the whole sukkah. My mitzdarfin. Is that clear? My mitzarfin l'arba. El Rav, the Amma. But Rav that says the Yesh ben Abba machloket, that Rav that says that if it's the whole machloket in this writer is going to be only if it's 4 tefach wide boards. But if it's not 4 tefach, everybody holds it's kosher. So he holds the case of the machloket is Rameya is talking when it's a 4 tefach wide board. If it's a 4 tefach wide board, I don't need help in the second board to join. I don't need to mitzaref the second board to make it. What do I need 2 4 tefach boards to join? Each board, if it's each board is a 4 tefach board, in it itself should go ahead and be enough to what? And to invalidate the sukkah. So that's what the Gemara is. Eat this if it's 4 tefach, I don't need to join the second board. Either less bad, but if it's not 4 tefach wide, you told me there's no machloket. Everyone said it's kosher. It's like regular reeds. So the Gemara answers, La'olam ispu haba. It is for teva. If it's for teva, what do I need it to go ahead and join? My mitzarfin, what does it mean, mitzarfin? La'arba amot min hatzad. It's mitzaref regarding the idea of arba amot min hatzad. That means when you go ahead, look at the Rashi. Arba dalat amot min hatzad. If you have on the side of a sukkah adjacent to the wall, if you have not kosher schach, right, it will not invalidate the sukkah, because we could say that the wall, dofen akuma, good morning, that the wall turns. The wall goes from over there. Let's say there's not kosher schach over here on the side. The wall, when you look at the wall, as if it moves to right over here, as long as it's as long as it's up to 4, not longer, if the not kosher schach doesn't go more than 4 amot. So when we say the boards join, that means all these boards join together to make it, if it goes past 4 amot, they join together, and no longer could you say dofen akuma, no longer does the wall extend, and therefore the sukkah will be a what? Will be not a kosher sukkah, because you can't connect the wall because of all the not kosher schach that is joined together from all these four boards. And who that says these boards are 4 tvachim, and you went across the whole sukkah like that, so Rameya holds they join together, and therefore it will wound the whole. You will not be able to do dofen akuma. Okay, I want to wish everyone a great day and a beautiful Shabbat. We'll continue. It's a little complicated, the Gemara, but I hope we got it. We got it pretty clear over here. Have a great day, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi. Thank you.
Too.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
You too.
See you. Bye bye.
All the best.
Shabbat shalom, Michael. Bye-bye.
Monday, Rabbi. Monday, looking
It's
forward.
Monday regular time, 6:45. Is that all right? Okay, sounds good. Might be a little early. Okay, if that, unless people feel we should do later. If that doesn't work, maybe we'll send it out in the chat. See what people say.
All right.
Yes, you got to join the chat. Okay, have a great day. Have a great Shabbat.
Shalom, Rabbi.
You too. Bye-bye.